Warning, the following video contains spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom's Tears memories and ending. Dragons are awesome, and in Zelda we have had them since the very beginning in 1986. Still, it was first with the 20th Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, that we learned that some dragons are different, as they were not born as dragons. All because of at least 7 secret stones brought by the Zonai with their descent from the heavens. Though more likely 10, seeing the number of dragons Hyrule could potentially have gotten if all the last holders of the stones draconified. 10 dragons. Now that would be a sight to behold. But as it was in Tears of the Kingdom, the most Hyrule had was 5, though very briefly, fortunately. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, as we're going for 2023 likes. For the year we got more answers of the dragons. Why do chosen or powerful individuals end up as these majestic creatures? Desperation when faced by the prospect of death and not being around, but indeed also hope. Hence why we will divide the Draconifications into 3 groups, naturally based on the Triforce, though in reverse. Courage being the original trio, Wisdom, which is naturally Princess Zelda in the distant past, and Power in present times with Demon King Ganondorf. So let's begin by going back to the beginning, the times of the Zonai, long before King Rauru and his sister Minru's fight for the newly founded Hyrule Kingdom. A time of far more Zonai on the surface, but also more stones. From Rauru and Minru, we know that the secret stones pass from Zonai generation to generation, the ultimate source of power of the Zonai, but these can only be wielded while you're alive, and with death, the stone passes on to the next generation and wield them. Tears of the Kingdom made this abundantly clear with its theme of succession. In the very beginning of the game, with Rauru handing over his stone to Zelda and his arm to Link, while the sages of the distant past to the sages of the present. Even so, from Minru we know that in the past the succession was broken. We don't know at which point in time, but that the reason that there are still secret stones left is that the act of consuming or swallowing stones was forbidden by the tribe. Which begs the question, who were so selfish or worthy of breaking the passing of the stones to the next generation? Most likely, Dinrol, Naydra, and Farosh, the 3 elemental and immortal dragons that we first interacted with in Breath of the Wild. Their ears differ from the Light and Demon Dragon in the fact that they are similar to Rauru's, and well, different from the younger dragons. This is most likely since they are the Zonai reason why the act of Draconification was forbidden. But why do they share those names? I have a simple, but at the same time logical theory. The names of the dragons most likely derive from the lands they ruled as powerful Zonai leaders or priests before they became dragons. Servants of the springs of Eldin, Lanayru, and Faron, each with a secret stone until the day they swallowed them. After all, the dragons are titled as servants of the springs in creating a champion / masterworks. But what matters to us is that the 3 Zonai decided that the stones should remain with them and not pass on with their death. Perhaps they knew, or at least suspected, of the immortal properties of the stones. Hopefully, it was at the very end of the lifespan, as then it didn't make any difference. Or so it might have seemed at first, as by swallowing the stones, they didn't only prevent the passing of the stones to their successors, but also the passing of their soul and consciousness to the afterlife. Partly a curse, though it might have been worth it for these 3 individuals, as now you could guard your former lands and springs, plus the sections you were responsible for in the depths for eternity. It was most likely the realization of this state of matter that stopped the act of Draconification in its infancy. You may call it the poisonous mushroom effect, and as a result, the majority of the stones survived to the lifetime of the Era of the Wild and Tears Link. These 3 dragons remind us of their past presence and potential rule over Hyrule, but as we now have examined, have never been able to rest or be themselves since they reduced the number of stones on the surface. Still, it appears that their act, and especially Farosh's, was commemorated. The dragons were after all servants of the springs, who their followers could literally now look up to. In Tears of the Kingdom, the entire Faron main questland made this abundantly clear with the dragon heads and the ultimate lightning strike. The same can be said about Naydra, who guards the spring of Nehru, as if it was her servant. Finally, all 3 dragons have a set each created by the Zonai after witnessing their dragon forms. The Ember, Frostbite, and Charge sets. Only the latter served a purpose in Tears of the Kingdom's main quest, but all of them were made for ancient Zonai rituals. Each set contains a headdress with the horns of Dinrol, Naydra, and Farosh. And interestingly, they are the only headgear in Tears of the Kingdom where Link's golden locks can be dyed to match the color of the respective dragons. Moreover, they were all scattered across caves in Eldin. Interestingly, in the case of the Frostbite set across the Hebra region, and in the case of the Charge set, dedicated chambers along Faron's Dracozu River, all with special properties, glow and attack buffs when in their particular element, Eldin's heat, Mount Lanayru Hebra's frost, and Faron's lightning. Either way, at the end of the day, Dinrol, Naydra, and Farosh, despite their potential best intentions, are tragic figures. Their ultimate misfortune being the loss of themselves after consuming their most prized possessions, which might have made them eternal gods and servants of the springs, but not exactly themselves anymore. It is this curse that made Minru so reluctant when the second age of Draconification dawned before and after the imprisoning war. The Age of Wisdom after the Age of Courage. A time where the Zonai wielders of the stones were well aware or reminded of the curse that followed after consuming the stones. Still, in this age, the Demon King couldn't be defeated, due to ironically the secret stone he had stolen and turned into the Stone of Darkness. With it, he could only be sealed at the price of King Raru's sacrifice. Worse, the Master Sword in the distant future was destroyed following Ganondorf's reawakening. And this is the thing, Zelda, until the recall of the damaged and decayed Master Sword from the distant future to the distant past, had put the thought of Draconifying away. She knew that she couldn't help Link, but with the Master Sword once again in her hands, and hearing Fi calling to her, she saw a more noble form of her Draconification, one which could save Hyrule in the future from the threat of the Demon King. It was desperation, but also hope to repent for the failure in the imprisoning war that made a decision one that Zelda was determined to go through. Not only that, but also convinced the other sages to guard their stones until the day Link would enter their temples with their successors. It was this commitment, and no other option for the future, that caused Minru to approve Zelda's plan and will to go through the forbidden ritual. More so, she would sacrifice her own mortal form before the princess lost herself. All to be there when the Demon King would fall, meeting the promised hero, Link, through the Purapad and aiding him in the final battles through her final construct. Zelda's Draconification and transformation into the Light Dragon can thus be considered less of a curse, but more of a blessing, as it had an end goal, namely Link and destruction of the Demon King. Divine light to restore the Master Sword and deliver this fusible one to the hero in the third and final age of Draconification, where Minru's spirit in the final construct first fought by Link's side until being knocked out by Ganondorf, leaving the final phase of the battle to him. Still, the Demon King, obsessed and corrupted with power, had one final ace left, his Stone of Darkness. Instead of admitting defeat, he consumed the Shining Stone to destroy the one who had bested him in one-on-one combat, giving birth to the final, in Tears of the Kingdom, Demon Dragon, or if you prefer, Dragondorf. Though his eternal form only lasted for at most a few hours, thanks to the coordination of the Light Dragon and Link. Combined, they brought Link and the Master Sword to the crown and the Stolen Stone and its end. The explosion that awakened Link's power to recall one last time. His will to bring back Zelda, which thanks to added focus of the spirits of King Rauru and Queen Sonia, restored them both. Zelda with the stone outside of her digestive system, and Link's original right arm before it was burned by Ganondorf's glue. The end of the brief Dragon Age of Power, followed right after by the end of the far longer Dragon Age of Wisdom, whose founding were depicted through 2 of Tears of the Kingdom's cutscenes, instances where the succession of the stones was broken by consuming them. You know, the Zelda equivalent of the Tide Pod meme. Dark jokes aside, now only the oldest Dragon Age of Courage remains flying above Hyrule. But will its founding ever be depicted and addressed now that Tears of the Kingdom is not getting any DLC? Only time will tell. But until we somehow get a 3rd game, this was the final video and theory on the immortal dragons in the sky. Still, our quest of Tears of the Kingdom theories continues, and I also want to see your thoughts regarding the 3 Dragon Ages Tears of the Kingdom shows and hints towards in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. A big thanks goes to you for watching until the end, to our patreon.com/Cameron patrons. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these 2 awesome videos.